Please welcome Moussa. Oh, this is amazing just to stand here. Amazing in the sense that I was thinking how I'm going to talk about today, but I decided maybe I should start with where I come from, as we say. I come from Senegal, in a small village, and from a very small tribe called the Soninke people. We used to be the biggest, the largest tribe in Africa. Soninke come from Aswan in the region of the pyramid. But because of our warrior background, we were hunted down and didn't lay our weapon on time during colonization. So nowadays we are the smallest tribe and discriminated overall, meaning Soninke will never become an officer in the Senegalese army. They will be sure that you don't get there because we are warmongers.
We are what?
We like war.
Okay.
Or this is the tradition.
Yeah.
And it is quite sad. But one thing the Soninke do that is really interesting and important for me, and I want to share with you today, is before we start any talk in public, we ask 3 questions. And here's the first one. Are you awake? Are you awake?
Yes, we're trying.
You made us awake.
We're trying.
We are looking forward to.
The second question they will ask before any conversation is, are you hungry or are you full?
We've just been fed.
Perfect. So the third one is they will ask permission to speak. Because when you engage in interacting and talking to people, there is 3 things happening for you and everyone else. The first one is you will learn new things that you didn't know. The second one is you will unlearn things you thought that was right and may not be. And the third one is you will relearn. And the relearning is painful. Learning is painful. So we have to do it with open mind. And for that process to take you in, I have to ask permission so that no one gets angry at me. Do I have your permission?
Yes.
Thank you. My name is Moussa Magassa, as I say, and when I finish talking about myself, I should also recognize the land I am in, which is the land of the Lekungen, the Songhi, the Squamor, and the Wusnek people. As we say, Ali, it is unceded land. And we are all here as guests and sometimes uninvited guests. I need to talk about this, and we be mindful about this land and reconsider how can we be part of the solution, not feeling like that we have been the problem, but how can we be part of the solution. And this is important for me because I came from a colonized land, as I told you about my background. So thank you so much today. I'm going to be talking about human rights from a faith perspective. And I have a big question for you, or a small one. When you hear the word human right from your faith, religion, or spiritual perspective, what comes to mind? I want to hear words. Hyphen is okay, but words.
Equality.
Dignity, respect.
Equality.
Equality.
Respect.
Respect. Yeah.
Understanding.
Understanding.
Compassion.
Compassion.
Kindness.
Kindness.
Oppression.
Oppression.
Inclusivity.
Inclusivity. Tell me, if we put all these words together, who give you those words? Who make you inclusive? Who give you compassion? Point me to that person. I want to go to that.
My family.
Family? Yes.
Sometimes.
Huh?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. Your faith. What else?
Yourself.
Yourself.
Your community.
Your community.
Experience.
Your experiences. Yeah. Who take that compassion, that inclusion, etc. from you? Who can take it from you?
Nobody.
Nobody.
Government takes it from you.
Government can take it from you? Who else? What about the shooting in the Quebec Mosque?
Injustices.
Injustices.
Terrorists.
What about Pittsburgh? Yeah?
Fear.
Fear.
Faith.
Faith. So, I want us just to think about this a moment. Because we all represent and see our religion and our faith as positive. And yeah, they are positive. It's only positivity in what we want to be and represent. So then the question is, how do we deal with what is not positive? How can we work and be part of solving it? Because that's a big challenge. So today, as I say, my presentation is about human rights from a faith perspective. And I want to just be clear that the question whether religion and human right or religion or faith and human right, whether they are compatible or not, that question has been settled a long time ago, both in the International Human Rights Declaration and the subsequent declarations that come, and also in what we will call in the international human rights law and the academic and everyone who is involved to talk about human rights and faith. Everyone has agreed that there is clear compatibility, that faith and human rights only add to each other. That's your strength to deal with what is not the positive, the inclusive, the good, the peaceful. It is to go from this strength, to go from this position. For example, let me say, bring you one writer, and his name is Dipti Patel. Not very well known in North America, but he wrote something that still is being quoted in the legal field. And Patel says that, and he was writing about the religious foundation of human rights, a perspective from the Judeo-Christian tradition and Hinduism. And he said that the link between human rights and religion or faith group, he says that from those perspectives, religion provides a theory for human rights. Theory, that the philosophical foundation of human rights is religion. That I will say, it is strength for all of us. Whether it is religion or it is different faith or spirituality, it's saying that those spirituality and faith and religion, they provide the foundation of the beautiful human right everyone is screaming and talking about. That's a great thing. He adds that religious or faith thought or thinking on human duties can really contribute to the development and promotion of human rights. So here is a tool he's giving us, that by using our faith, our spirituality, or our religion, we can have the tool to promote and develop human rights work. And I have seen it in today's presentations when you talk about all the different events you are creating, the collaboration, the community building. These are tools and outcomes of using a tool for community building. The second option is to talk about human rights vis-a-vis the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And I'm sure all of you know that the Declaration says something that is quite interesting. It says that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and right. They are endowed with reason and conscience and should act towards one another in a spirit of brotherhood / sisterhood. Should. We should act towards each other. That English, since English is not my first, second, third, fourth, fifth language, when I came across this word should, I went back to the dictionary and say there is something I need to understand. Can we act, or should we act, or must we act? That's where I want us to come and think about it. So the declaration also adds something that is quite interesting. Even if we don't want to act as a human being because we don't see other people as human beings, the declaration go on and say, hey, if you don't agree with this, here is something I'm going to give you. Something very interesting. Because the first declaration as I say, I have met people who didn't agree with it. Many years ago, I was in Uganda in 2004, and there was a civil war going on with the Lord Resistance Army. I was in the worst heart of the place called the Gulu and Kitgum. The day we got there, the next day, we went to visit the refugee camp. We came out. 2 hours later, they attacked the camp, kidnapped 7, killed 17. The team I was with, they asked me because I was hired to work with the team, the Canadian group that went there as a security advisor and work with the military so that those Canadians are protected. Through the vine, I heard what was going on, and I changed the time we were going to visit the refugee camp. So the 1 hour window I created was what saved us, because the rebel was not after anyone else except our group. So we were reading about this back in the hotel. Through my window, I saw the military putting all these child soldiers they have captured and beating them and kicking them on the floor. So I went out and I asked the soldier, I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Well, these are prisoners. And what happened in the camp, it is their fault." So I went back and I looked at the Ugandan colonel, Mohisha, who was in charge of the whole region. And I say, "Colonel, there is a problem. Just look through your window what is happening. Can you do something? This is totally in violation of the Geneva Convention and every human rights law." He looked at me, he said, "Yes, if they were human beings. But these are cockroach." That's why I say the declaration has come back to tell us if we don't agree with every human being has the right and is born, yada yada, so we can come back and say, and the declaration in Article 7 say, everyone is entitled to all the right and freedom that is set forth in this declaration, whether it is the right to life, the right to decent treatment, and you name it, without distinction of any kind, such as race, color, sex, language, religion, political or other opinion, national or social origin, property, birth, or other status. Other status mean also faith, spirituality, and anything else you want to put yourself in as a human being, you have the right to have those rights, just because you are a human being. Furthermore, it says also that distinction shall not be made on the political, historical, jurisdictional, etc. But what is interesting for me is the first part of this declaration, that everyone is entitled to all the rights just because we are human beings. So the treatment I saw in Uganda couldn't go on even if those were child soldiers and have killed their own parents and so on and so on. The treatment was not warranted. It was not acceptable. But here's one I'm going to bring you in, because the declaration talks about freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. What does that mean? Your freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. Can you tell me what that means?
Those are three distinct things.
Yeah. So help me, because as I told you, English is not my first, second, third. What does that mean? Freedom, that you have freedom for thought, conscience, and religion. What does that mean?
In theory, it means a lot, but in practice, probably doesn't.
Yeah, let's break it into one. Freedom of thought, what does that mean? How do you apply your freedom of thought?
You think it.
You think it? Yeah?
Make decisions.
You make decision of doing what?
In life.
In life? Yeah?
Educating the next generation to think for themselves is really important.
Educating the next generation to think for themselves.
I think it's the right to disagree.
The right to agree and disagree. What about the second? Freedom of conscience. What does that mean?
Personal ethics.
Yeah, personal ethics. So if you demonize another group because their faith is not compatible with yours, is that your freedom of conscience?
If you act to harm them,
No.
No.
My worry is not that it is not that you do it. My worry is that you sit passive and let it happen. That's my concept.
Yeah. Can I just add one thing? I'm a newcomer to this group and old enough to have been born and grown up under the horror of the Nazis in Germany. In a family that actually looked at the Nazis in Germany and said, this is totally unacceptable, criminal, and we oppose it. I won't go into the details, but the costs to stand up were very, very high, including life.
And it's the same today.
I'm just saying that, yeah. So the human rights, you know, that came out of that horror that I experienced and remember,
Is a declaration.
invaluable. Invaluable.
1948.
And, yeah.
It is invaluable. So what the freedom of conscience, thought, and religion said in the declaration, it says everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion, and this right will include freedom to change your religion of belief, and freedom either alone or in communities with others, and in public or private, to manifest your religion or belief in teaching, practice, worship, and observance. It calls on us toleration, but most than toleration, acceptance. That we can see diversity in the choice, that you can start being a Muslim and change to be a Christian and tomorrow be a Buddhist, and that should be okay. That should be okay. As I said earlier on when I was introducing myself, my mother was Christian and my father was Muslim, and it was very rare. I think there were not any other case like this in my village where I grew up. In the city, yes. But in my village, it was never heard of. When I went in the city, I started taking a lot of interest in the Baptist Center. And I was joining some of my friends who were Christian. And we would go there on Sundays to learn. And some people told my dad about it. One elder even confronted me one day when I was coming out of there. But my dad called me in the room the next day and said, I heard you going to the Baptist Center. I say yes. And he paused. And the idea that I got and walked away from it was that since I'm going to learn about knowledge of myself and other people, it was okay. The next day, again, someone came again home and told my dad the same thing. And he called me again. So we had 3 or 4 different meetings like this, and every time he's checking with me. So one day he came in my room and he noticed I have the Quran and the Bible together. And he picked up the Bible and he said, can I borrow it for one day? Some of you have been in my house, you will see that I have different versions of the Bible, the Quran, and that I have other faith group books. And I said to my kids, eat all of it. Don't leave a piece. Read all of them, learn all of them. Because one sentence I learned when I was young is, l'ignorance est mauvaise, ne pas se renseigner est pire. Not knowing is very bad, but not wanting to learn is worse. So we're talking about multi-faith, but I'm engaging you. If you only know your religion and you think you are great, you are right. I totally agree with you. But it is not enough. Pick the other books. Understand why your community is so diverse. That for me, that's freedom of conscience, religion, and thought. It is, we can't choose between ourselves if we don't know each other. So let me now move to the next one. The next one is that, however, throughout history, as we know, we all know that throughout history, and as you were just saying, religion and human rights have sometimes been perceived as being opposing concepts. Or sometimes religion has had its hand in violation of human rights. We know that the reality is that today in our world and in the past, religious misogyny is something we all know exists. We know that bigotry is here and it is not outside of this room. I can be the first one starting it without knowing or knowingly doing it also. Marginalization of religious minority in our community is something, even if we don't do it, we sit and we watch it happening. Violence. Ali, you just, and other people talked about the Pittsburgh senseless killing of 11 innocent people. We talk about the Quebec killing. We talk about the French Charlie Hebdo. So it is all over the place. That's what we do. Human right for me is not the right. You remember I just told you about all the rights? No. Human right is about responsibility. That's what I have learned in my life. And that's why I want to call on all of you to start thinking about human rights as not only your rights, those rights are already here. It is about your responsibility. Our rights sometimes are so strong because we have the privilege. So the privilege sometimes can protect our right, but our responsibility are not protected by anything except that we apply them, we do it. That's why some researchers have spoken about not only human rights, but they talk about the cultural context of our society and where we live. We should look as responsible people when we want to apply human rights to look through the lenses of our culture, because religion, our religion and our faith swim in the cultural river. We should look at issues like patriarchy, like feudalism, ethnicity, chauvinism, and you name it. We should also look at ideology, about power, about hegemony, globalization, and all those things. How can I call myself a good Muslim when I know that the beautiful jacket I bought for $20 costs the labor of 4-year-old kids in India or in Bangladesh? How can I look at myself and call myself a good Muslim when this pair of shoes that are shining on my feet, I bought them for $100, and I know how many kids or how many indentured workers have been forced to produce? That's not about human rights, that is about responsibility. So that's why, in conclusion, I have a question for you as Victoria Multi-Faith Society people, members and followers and friends. The first one is, I want you, before I ask the question, to again remember the Universal Declaration that give all of us those beautiful rights. You remember? The declaration is saying, all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. Look around yourself and wonder if that's true for everyone. If not, why? And what have we done to be sure that this is equal? It says, all human beings are endowed with reason and conscience and should act towards one another in a spirit of brotherhood and sisterhood in fact. Look around ourselves and ask ourselves what is happening, what people are doing to each other. Is it how people who are endowed with reason and conscience do? However, before you answer again my question, I wanted to also think about human rights in the context of universality. Freedom of religion as it can imply to spread the word of God and your religion, or freedom of faith and spirituality. That all is because you can apply it, you can live your freedom of religion. Since this is all your rights, you can do all this. My question is, before I do it, maybe I should say, and I should agree with all of you again, that human rights, as I say at the beginning, definitely the question about whether human rights and religion are compatible is not what we're talking about, because we all agree it is. Human rights, as we know, it humanizes the individual. Religion puts the individual in the society and paint it with colors: black, yellow, green, pink, male, female, and so on and so on. Or I will say, human rights and religion combined together, it gives a human being what we call Ubuntu. Abantu mabantu. Ubuntu means being a human being. Your religion and your human rights give you altogether this sense and this right and responsibility of being a human being. Therefore, my question to you is how the VSM members can contribute to a peaceful, religious and spiritual cohabitation that will respect human rights for everyone. This is someone who is ESL telling you, everyone is not a small word for me. For everyone. And that will also contribute to us working together to preserve social justice for all of us. How you will do that? One word, everyone. How you will do that?
Collaboration.
Collaboration? Community?
Get involved.
Get involved?
Inclusiveness.
Inclusiveness?
Love.
Love?
Stand up.
Stand up?
Education.
Huh?
Education.
Education?
Working.
Working?
Courage.
Courage?
Stand up for those who can.
Stand up with those who can? Involvement? I think these are all words. If I was going to take you for a 1-hour classroom and get you to define inclusion, you will all list all this under inclusion as well. Well, the good news, my friends, is our diversity or our difference exists. And this is what human rights talk about, that it should all be accepted and respected. But inclusion doesn't exist. There is no country called inclusion. There is no space called inclusion. Inclusion is creative. And you only can create inclusion if you show leadership. A leadership that is not an elevation to power, but a submission to responsibility. Thank you.